Hello, thank you for tuning in. My name is Kellie Fitzgerald. I am your host for the Positive Vibes podcast. My camera just flipped out there for a second. Sorry about that. Today, I have a really great guest. I know that people who watch my show will really resonate with him and get some great nuggets of knowledge here. I have Marques Ogden. I always want to switch that. I'm sorry. Ogden Enterprises LLC. You are Ogden Ventures. I'm sorry about that. And I thank you so much for being on the show this morning. It's really a pleasure.
No problem, Kelly. Thanks for having me on.
Let's start off with, a lot of people come to me when they're coming up against a life situation, some kind of a change they didn't see coming, some kind of a shocking transformation. With your background, I am guessing you've probably come up against that once or twice.
Oh, sure. Absolutely, I have.
How do you work your way through it? What is your go-to that you all?
So for me, Kelly, what I try to do when I am faced with a challenge or something like either pivot through or try to get through, I think about what it is that I really want my legacy to be.
Mhm.
And a lot of times when we are hit with adversity or with challenges or with hardship, we focus on that hardship at the moment, that struggle at the moment. And I understand because our mind is, I believe, a lot of times programmed to do so. But we
Yes.
have to learn how to break that thought process by really focusing on, well, what is it that you want your legacy to be? Or quote unquote, what do you want to be remembered for? And I tell people, if you can learn to think like that, think about that, go through, why you want yourself to be looked at in a certain way when challenges arise, I feel that you're going to be in the best position to move forward. That's just my personal feeling because I tell people constantly, life is not linear. Life is not going to be easy, and you're not just going to have days where it's all roses and rainbows. Tomorrow, well, February 14th is Valentine's Day.
Mhm.
Life is not a big Valentine's Day. It's just not. And so if you're not prepared for that, you will struggle.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people see um, they see life in a instead of through rose-colored glasses, through kind of a gray-colored glasses, and everything kind of it piles up on them. Um, I know a lot of the time when I'm coaching people through things, it's hard for them to break out of that. Everything bad happens to me. Nothing works out. It's hard for them to get past that. And it's just, you just have to kind of keep encouraging them to push through. Is there any one thing that's worked better for you than another?
You know what? For me, it's really worked well is the ability to just not try so hard to look at things and let things just quote unquote pile up. Because here's the thing, when things quote unquote pile up, then at that point, like, wow, I got this to do, I've got that to do, I'm overwhelmed here, I'm overwhelmed there. And what happens is at that point, you're like, man, I'm not going to get anything done. Man, it's just going to be constantly this and this and this. And so I tell people, right? I look at life as a pile of laundry. Okay.
Okay.
So think about it like this. In life, if you allow your laundry to pile up and keep piling up and just throw it in a hamper, you just freaking just don't come back to it till like a week, 2 weeks later. Well, what happens? You really don't feel like doing it,
Yeah.
right? Because it's so much. It's so overwhelming. It's so, my God, there's just so much to get done. I have so little time. And what happens? You talk yourself out of it. This is when, like, for me, I do my laundry daily. People can say I'm weird. That's whatever you want to say, but that's how I do it. Why? so it doesn't pile up. The thing, when
Right.
you do laundry, after you do laundry, you gotta fold the clothes. If you have a stack of clothes like this high, like 2, 3 feet off the ground, you got to do the laundry, you got to segment it, you got to wash it, you got to dry it, you got to fold it. Next thing you know, you got a potential, half a day or more gone doing laundry,
Yeah.
right? So it's the same thing in life, right? Do not run away from problems. Don't continuously say, oh, I don't have what it takes, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough. Because what happens is your mind really starts to believe that.
Yeah.
And the minute your mind believes that is the minute you are going to be facing so much more of an uphill battle to get yourself where you want to be.
Yeah.
So I hope if you're listening to this, attack things daily, right? What I found works for me, Kellie, is I like to move my horizons. Okay. I like to move my horizons. And what that means is I move towards getting challenges done one action step at a time, every single day at a time.
Yeah, I think that's important to maybe break things up into smaller pieces when you're just starting out. For whatever reason, I've worked with a lot of people that have been homeless or they're trying to transition away from that and trying to find what they want. They don't know what they want, but what they know they need is clean laundry. They know that they're going to need to find some way to eat. And when you're at that base level, that very basic, I'm one step away from, starving to death on the street. It's really important, I think, for people to just you have to believe there's something better. If you are going through and you're saying, okay, I've got clean clothes, yay, that's an accomplishment. That is a huge accomplishment. And I think sometimes people look at the big picture too much and they need to back up a little bit and say, right now, in this moment, I have clean clothes. Yay.
Or how about this, Kellie? That's a great way of looking at it. How about, hey, today I made that phone call I didn't make yesterday.
Right.
Hey, today I was able to get a client to say maybe instead of no. How
Yes.
about today I was able to make that post on social media that I was so afraid to make because it was vulnerable? Yay. That's a great point. Ladies and gentlemen, please learn to celebrate the small wins. I
Yeah.
have a client that I've known, wow, I've known him for over 20 years, and he's hired me as I'm like his vision life coach per se.
Mhm.
And we were chatting about that, and we had a call yesterday because the week before I said, hey, man, please start celebrating your small wins. Make that a point. He's like, okay, Marcus, I'll try. It's hard. I said, I know it's hard because you haven't done it your whole life. Got it. But hard doesn't mean impossible.
Right.
And actually, being a leader is not just doing what is right, it's doing what you know is hard and right. And
Yeah.
so he started doing that, right, Kellie? We had our call yesterday. Bam! He had a better week so far. End of last week and beginning of this week. Took time for himself. He went and got himself out with some friends. He started having some him time. I'm like, bruh,
Right.
yes. Because again, right, it's human nature to say, well, oh, okay, I did that, but oh, what's next? Oh, I did that, but it wasn't enough. Well, how about saying, you know what? What I did was enough, and let's keep moving forward.
Right. That's so important. And I think anyone coming up, I know um, a lot of musicians want to be musicians, and they're always, but I have to do a bigger club. I have to write a better song. I have to do, and maybe you do need to work towards that. Goals are wonderful. You can't really live your life without goals. If you don't have goals, life happens to you, and that's really not what anyone wants. But at the same time, you need to celebrate that gig you got. Celebrate the two people who were at your show, if it was two people. You have to start somewhere. And I think it's also human nature in this area, in this arena of instant gratification. People want it now, 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 now. And they don't realize sometimes, most of the time they do, but sometimes they don't realize there are steps that you have to take. And if you're not taking those steps, you're setting yourself up for failure somewhere down the line in a more catastrophic manner. Solve the problems, deal with the issues, move forward. If you're holding on to some the trauma, some tragedy you went through in your life, heal that while you're taking those first steps. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a place where you aren't going to be able to handle it. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people.
Kellie, do you know the band U2 and the lead singer Bono?
Yep, yep.
How many people do you think they played in front of for their first gig to
Oh,
perform for the record company? How many do you think?
I would guess less than 6, because
11.
11.
And of the 11, 3 they knew. So
Yeah,
only 8 new people.
right.
That's it.
Yeah,
8.
yeah,
8 people. Bono had the mindset to continue to encourage the band, to continue to move forward, to continue to work through the challenges of frustration and working on their craft. And they really practice 2 things. If you're struggling in life, learn to practice these 2 things to help you get yourself where you want to be: gratitude and self-mastery.
yeah,
And they did that. And now look at U2, one of the most well-respected rock bands of our time. And they're icons, they're legends, everything you can think of. Because instead of saying, oh, only 8 people, oh, I'm
yeah,
just not going to do it, they
yeah.
played like it was a packed stadium to those 8 people.
Right. Right. And you touched on something there with gratitude. I've done a bazillion different talks about gratitude and videos on YouTube, and people don't seem to understand it really, really is so important to have gratitude. And I am certain with your background in football, you've run across a couple of people who were more feeling entitled rather than grateful. And what happens in a lot of those cases is it's just like they didn't deal with something early on and now they're in the spotlight and they don't know how to handle it. So um, I applaud you for doing good with your life. I it's there is life after football. You've proven it. Yes.
Oh yeah, and Kellie, I was that guy that didn't show gratitude, that didn't
Mhm.
appreciate things, that was always like, I want more, I want more. I was that guy.
Yeah.
And that's how I lost everything that I owned: my home, my cars, all of my money, all of my credit. That's exactly how I lost it all. Was I did not do a good job of being grateful. My ego got massive. It got so big, it couldn't be in the same room with me. And it was just a matter of time. And
Right.
that's what happened. Next thing you know, boom, I end up getting all this money, all this prestige, all these things I ever thought I wanted. And then I got this massive ego. And I tell people, God giveth, God can taketh away. And literally, Kellie, 3 months after being the largest African-American owned subcontracting company the year before, I'm out of business. I got nothing.
Right.
Bankrupt, broke, I got 0.
Yeah. But that is a great story for people to hear that you can do it again.
Sure,
It,
sure.
it never give up. That's the thing that I talk to people about more often than anything else is you have to get to a point within yourself where you realize you can do it. And
Mhm.
no matter what you've lost, I've kind of gone that route as well. I had a real estate company for a long time. And one of the things was you get to a point where it's like, oh, well, this is never going to end. I've got this. This is awesome. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. And it's just, what did I miss then? Then you do some self-introspection and you say, oh, I get it now. So, it's kind of not a horribly common story, but it is pretty common in whatever industry. that you it's human nature, I think, to get caught up in that. You get caught up with people telling you you're great, and then you're, well, I'm better than this person and that person, and it just really feeds your ego. So
Yep. And the minute you stop listening to people is the minute you're about to be screwed. Because once you stop listening to people, that's when all the bad things start to happen.
yeah, yeah, it's you have to have the right people in your life, and I've seen it in like high school and even some college sports to a degree. But you have the people, and I know you know this, you have the people that are pushing, pushing, pushing because they're saying, oh, hey, if this person is successful, I can ride their coattails and I can go right with them. But then you've got the other people who are like genuinely, you can do this, you can do this. So we've had something like that recently that I've just heard about, is you kind of feeding that ego, not for the real benefit of the athlete, but for the promoter or for the manager or for that. So I know you've had to deal with that as well. How do you decide who belongs, who doesn't, who's steering you right, who's steering you wrong?
So I'm a big believer in alignment. So I can really tell if somebody, for example, we're looking to hire a fractional chief marketing officer. And I had a call with him, really great guy, seems right on point. I think he'll do great, but me saying he'll do great is not enough. I
Right.
need to make sure he's aligned with my business partner on the inner game community side, which you are a member of, which I'll be making a post about being on your awesome podcast in the community. And because Victor is a marketing expert, scaling, branding, messaging. And I want to make sure that working with somebody on the Ogden Venture side, it ties in on the inner game community side. So I'm
Right.
going to have Victor chat with him. Then if he passes Victor's test, then this last person will be Jaslyn, who is my external manager, who handles everything like creating social posts and the calendar and my media stuff and videos and reels and things like that and speaking and how we all those things. Jaslyn has been handling me for like 3 years. So if he's passed my test, now he's got to pass Victor's. If he passes Victor's, he'll go to Jaslyn. If he passes Jaslyn, then I'll hire him. I'll work with him as our fractional CMO because Victor, my business partner, said that's the last piece that we are missing. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'd be glad to hire this person, but I'm learning from my past mistakes where it's like, oh, I think he's great. Boom, you're hired. Well, no, that's not enough now. That's not enough. So to answer your question directly, I look for alignment, people that have same vision, similar goals, aspirations as I do. Second thing I look for, are they individuals that I know that can work with the team? And at that point, is everybody going to work towards a common goal, as you mentioned earlier? So if people are willing to do that, I will work with them. But to be very honest, right, Kelly, I'm much slower to hire than I ever have been because I've learned through bad hires how to do so.
Yeah, yeah, I've gone that route myself a couple of times. It has to be more than just, well, you're a great person, let's, go do something. And then they don't come through for you. That's kind of what I've learned through decades in business. It's just,
Oh my gosh. I mean, I've learned, through hiring, firing, people who were out for the wrong reasons, people that didn't know how to do what they were supposed. I mean, like my business partner in my construction company, God rest his soul, he had no experience in commercial construction. He was a residential contractor. By the time I really discovered that he didn't have the similar experiences and knowledge of earthwork on the commercial side, it was way too late.
right,
We were bonded on jobs. We had our homes on the line. We had our assets on the line. And with all our assets and our homes and things like that, you couldn't just back out. Or you
right,
could, but they would call your bond. So now,
right.
of course, I ended up losing everything anyway. But I tried to at least do it from a perspective of trying to work and save the business, not just saying, I'm gonna throw the towel and I'm gonna quit. And then from there, everything just breaks down.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had some horrific business partners in my life. It's just, but again, you can't just go on, well, this is a nice person. I like this person. It has to be some more experience there. But one thing that you just hit on is you can reinvent yourself many times
Mhm.
throughout your lifetime. And I think young people just starting out, they don't really realize that. They see one thing, and if that doesn't work, then they're doomed. Um, I've had in the last week, I've had 3 different young people tell me, well, maybe I shouldn't just do anything. I'm like, you can't give up. You can't give up like that. Maybe it will work in a different way. Maybe that's not what you're supposed to be pursuing, but you have to think broadly, think creatively, stay open to that alignment. I know a couple of businesses that I've run in my life were just sheer, hey, let's do this. I've been looking for someone just like you with your background to do this with. And those things do happen too, but you can't give up the first time. You have to keep going and going.
So, Kelly, I went to college at the Howard University. So happy I went to Howard. Great school. My dad went to Howard. It was legacy, and it continued the bloodline, which was amazing. So I went to school to be an investment banker, work on Wall Street. I got drafted into the National Football League. Grateful, had an amazing career, played the game, loved it, all that. Got out of football, didn't know what I really wanted to do. Started a construction business, built it to a $20 million a year plus business, lost it all. Came down to Raleigh, North Carolina, worked at Merrill Lynch for a short couple of months, got fired, all my fault. Wasn't doing well on the practice test. Boom, I'm gone. Got to a construction company the next day, fired from that job 5 days later. From there, I ended up starting my own business as a football trainer, trying to coach kids in football technique and this and that, which I knew. Started out good, grew, but I ran into some issues where when kids started going into practice and going into season, they
Mhm,
weren't coming as much. So the money started to slow down. Took a job as a custodian working in downtown Raleigh for $8.25 an hour.
mhm,
Finally hit rock bottom where I needed to hit to get my life back. One of my favorite quotes is by J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series in her car.
mhm.
Rock bottom is the moment that I rebuilt my life,
Yeah.
started from there wanting to speak. Didn't get a paid job for 2.5 years. I kept doing custodial work for a while. I ran 707 camps. I did private trainings. I was a birthday clown at birthday parties. I would make appearances. I would do branding opportunities, anything and everything. Got my first paid job finally in April 2016. I started doing that, started doing some coaching, some consulting while still doing football training, running different camps, programs. And then in 2020, the pandemic hit. And then 2021, made the decision to go full time in this business. I mean, I've been doing it a lot, but like nothing else, like stopped training, all that. And then I got divorced in 2022, had to move out, had to go through again, had to make some adjustments, had to work some other things out. Now back doing exactly what I have always known as my passion: speaking, coaching, consulting, podcasting, being an author, and
Yep.
owning parts of different businesses that align with our brand. If you are listening to this as an individual, especially a young person, most of the time you're going to have to go through changes, make pivots, go through different alterations, go through ups, downs. You're going to have to usually fail, go through some type of failure. Warren Buffett says it best. He will not invest in a business owner that hasn't failed 3 times.
Right.
Failure is not a negative. It might feel like that at the moment. And I felt that going through the bankruptcy and losing my home and having no money. I felt it, right, Kelly? Someone asked me the question yesterday, if you could take anything back in your life and change it, would you? I said, absolutely not.
Mhm.
Because without the failures, without what I've gone through, who I am today, where I am today would not be.
Yeah.
So, to answer your question or your statement, if you're listening to this and you're not having success on your first time out, you are like 99% of society right down the path.
Yeah.
It's you're not alone. You're not an anomaly. You're not a leper. You are an individual that's going through what we call growing pains, and
Yeah.
that's just the reality of life.
Thank you for going into that. I was kind of hoping that you would, because so many people need to hear that. And I do think that we learn best from other people, and from other people's experiences. It's all part of life, that failure thing. It just is. And I know so many young people right now are feeling kind of lost. They get out of school and they're like, all right, I've done what everyone has told me to do my entire life. Now what?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
finding yourself is a big part of that process. I've done, oh wow, probably 30 different businesses in my adult life. And it's just like, okay, don't like that, don't like that, don't like that, and it was just a process for me of, I would get an idea, and I can't just have an idea for a hobby. I have to turn it into a business. And that's what I would do. And a lot of failure, a lot of failure, a lot of losing money. And you just got to keep up. You just got to keep getting up and moving forward. But I know of at least several young people this morning, young men, who will absolutely be hanging on every word that you just said. So I do appreciate you sharing your story so much. It
Absolutely.
means a lot. What do you do now? You
So
know,
now, so now I'm a full-time keynote speaker, national, international, business coach, corporate consultant, podcast host. I'm a brand ambassador. I own parts of different businesses that align with our mission and our mantra. And I also just love to volunteer, give back, and help others who are trying to move forward in their journey, but might not know the best way to quote unquote go about it.
yeah, yeah. There are people who need direction. I think a lot of direction right now. Um, it's admirable that you have gone through everything that you have and you're still trying to give back. I think that is another key that we don't focus on enough about what it means to live a successful life. I think you have to get to a point where it's like, I can teach other people coming up behind me, or I can help people grow their business, their lives, because that's really what it comes down to. It can't be all business. There has to be some life in there as well. And you seem to talk about a balance, carving out time for yourself, carving out time for business. Talk a little bit about that balance. How do you reach that balance in your own life?
Balance to me is everything. I will be very honest. I did not do well at balancing when I was trying to do the business when I was married, because when I was married, I was not able to have control of the finances to where I knew what was coming, what was going out. So I
Mhm.
was working
Right.
a lot to pay for things and take care of this or take care of that, or all that. Today, with me being the only person that quote unquote spends money out of the account, it's much easier to track
Right.
what I make, what spends, what goes out. And so now with that, I take more time to myself. Like, for example, I'm going out tomorrow night, to, just enjoy myself and get out. I'm all about, now that I'm single, dating again, trying to get out and do things and trying to find someone that I align with, that I can connect with, that can share and I can support her. She can support me. I'm finding more time on weekends to actually go and quote unquote shop for myself. Like I used to be horrible at like going to shop for myself, buying nice clothes or things like that, going to Nordstrom and stuff like that. So I'm doing that. more. I go get haircuts, twice a week to keep myself, and I get like facials with that, as part of like to keep my skin looking nice. And I'll get a pedicure twice a week. And I'm very much now into balancing in my life because I don't want this to be work, work, work all the time. So, like for example, this weekend, I'll work a little. I'll have a date tomorrow. I'll work some, coming up, for a little bit. Taking my daughter out for a little daddy-daughter date, and then I'll see her Saturday for her basketball game. I'll work before that, and then it's not my weekend, but my ex needs me to help. So, of course, with my daughter, will be right there. So I'll pick her up, take her to her basketball game, stay there, support, rah, 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 cheer, 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 be the more cheerleader, and then come back home, finish a couple things, and I'll go play poker, or I'll go shop for myself down at the outlets, or maybe go to the art museum and walk around, depending upon the weather, things like that, or go look at a new restaurant. I don't know, just something, right? So I used to be a total workaholic, like
Yeah.
at work all the time, every day. But again, I would tell her every time she was sitting right beside me, having to pay for someone that was like, like the nicer things, which is fine. I had to work a lot.
Right.
Do I like the fine things in life? Absolutely. Yes, I do, Kelly. But I also know how to manage. I know how to save. I know how to put away. And by doing that, I'm able to enjoy life better because I'm not constantly trying to make up and pay for this and for that. And so I also find by having more balance, I actually do better when I am working because I have more energy. I feel better about myself. And you know what? I'm very on. I mean, I hope people are listening to this. God rest my father's soul. Loved him. He was my best friend. I have a huge tattoo on my back of of a picture of his on my desk. It went somewhere. Oh, it's somewhere here. I have a picture. Oh, here it is. Here's a picture of me, my brother, and my dad at my brother's wedding. Like I am all about my father. I'm his number one fan. He was my hero. My dad, though, unfortunately, Kelly, did not do a good job taking care of himself.
Right.
Near the end of his life, he had diabetes. I mean, he had kidney failure. Not diabetes. He had kidney failure. He had some problems losing a lot of teeth. He had some problems like his feet. He had some problems like his health. It was very, very hard to watch your hero just break down like that. And because of that, I don't want to have my daughter watch her dad go through that.
Right.
So I go to the dentist twice a year. I go to the doctors once a year. I go to the gym 5, 6 days a week. The balance of doing things for myself is important because losing my father when I was 25, he was 57. But the way in which I watched his demise, I don't want to have both my daughters. I have a 21-year-old stepdaughter and I have a 10-year-old. I don't want to have my girls watch me go through that.
Right. Right. And that is important. And I think that's a good place to leave it with taking care of yourself. Thank you so much for your time. I know you are very, very busy, and I do appreciate it so very much. I know watchers and listeners will absolutely hang on every word. So thank you. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me on, Kelly. You were great.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for watching. Please share the video, like it, comment, all that great stuff. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.